Yes, David.
Okay, I'll start now. I apologize. It's kind of brief. It's only about 6 pages, 6 or 7 pages. But the the topic, the next section would have been very difficult to segue into because it was sort of like in a completely different frame. So what I wanted to do was finish this out. This is from where I left off the last time. And so hopefully it'll generate a little bit of conversation, or maybe the meeting will be a bit brief tonight. We'll see what happens. Okay. So here we go. And the reason I like this one for particularly is because we're heading into the new year, and enthusiasm in everyday life is something that we might find kind of difficult right now because of the conditions in the world and all kinds of other things that are dragging us down. But I'm hoping that this will give us some ideas and some inspiration to sort of keep ourselves on the upside in our everyday lives. So, enthusiasm in everyday life, from The Might of the Thoughts, page 338 to 350. Page 338. The capacity for the enthusiasm must be achieved through great effort, but that is preceded by an affirmation that one wants to achieve it, and it is welcome in order to empower the might of the thoughts in such that they can allow everything to become reality. Therefore, it is not done as the authors of the faulty books to do with the matter of positive thinking right, whereby it is only necessary to regard oneself as positive and enthusiastic for long enough, and to also say this again and again in order to really be positive and enthusiastic. Truthfully, it is not done that way because neither something positive nor the enthusiasm which results from it arise in this kind and wise. Consequently, the principle of the enthusiasm cannot take over the command in the human being. That has nothing to do with the simple psychological law that in the human being, a deep tendency exists by means of which they become exactly that which they think, tend, and nurture. Therefore, if human beings want to achieve something positive in themselves and want to create an evolutive enthusiasm, then this must all be laboriously achieved with hard work, completely consciously and purposefully. Consequently, it is therefore not sufficient to simply think it is just as one desires. In this form, wishes always remain wishes which never manifest because they cannot be realized by means of the might of the thoughts, because this might has just not been built up. Wishes in this form are only unprocessed ideas, which are not processed into ideals, for which reason they remain wishful ideas, which have no evolutive content and thereby also no powerful content. Therefore, they also cannot experience any realization, rather only a senseless expression, which does not bring any progressive and neutral positive equalized values. Such a value only arises through the manifestation of wish ideals and wish imaginations, which are capable of manifesting and can therefore be realized by means of the might of the thoughts. When the might of the thoughts is sufficiently strengthened by means of the necessarily created enthusiasm. Ideals, excuse me?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay, okay. By the way, if anybody wants me to pause, just either raise your hand or say, excuse me, and I'll stop and we can discuss the topic. Ideals, imaginations, and efforts must be retained in the consciousness and be newly nourished again and again by the thoughts, so that the consciousness thereby actually absorbs and holds on to them. The ideals and imaginations must be clear and sharp and must not pervade dimly and diffusely in only a shadowy manner. The clearer and sharper the ideals, imaginations, and efforts, the more powerful the enthusiasm for them and the capacity of the might of the thoughts to realize them. And if one talks about how ideals, wishes, efforts, and imaginations must be retained in the consciousness and must be newly nourished again and again by the thoughts, if they are to succeed in being expressed by means of the might of the thoughts, then one must also talk about how ideals and imaginations and so forth must come to exist as a pictorial, must come to exist as pictorial impressions in the consciousness. However, one must not understand the pictorial nature of the impressions in the consciousness to be a form in which an effectively really visible picture would come about, because in reality, the pictorial imagination is a pure consciousness picture, which is fluidly constructed like an apparition and works like a pictorial haze, recognizable for the consciousness and the subconsciousness, but it is not definitely tangible. However, in accord with one's power of imagination, the consciousness picture can assume very distinct forms. Consequently, it can be very well recognized and defined. The consciousness pictures come forth from corresponding thoughts, which, by means of their might, create the picture in the consciousness and bring it to the fore. And again, this process depends on the corresponding enthusiasm, by means of which the thoughts are spurred on and their might is increased. The consciousness pictures, in turn, run back into the thoughts and drive them on to new activity. In this form, thoughts and consciousness pictures run back and forth and become extraordinarily powerful factors, which ultimately come to fruition and become the actuality through the might of the thoughts. If no enthusiasm and joy are perceptible in the consciousness, then these values have also not been acquired. Consequently, no corresponding impulsations could therefore appear in the consciousness, nor could any pictures which have the same direction. In fact, only that which the human beings also contain in themselves and have fundamentally acquired themselves can come out of it. That is a profound truth, which should finally be understood by every human being, so that everyone makes a true human being out of themselves. But the question must thus be asked, when will this finally be understood, so that the human beings make themselves into real human personalities in every regard, or shatter against themselves, depending on how seriously, enthusiastically, creatively, and constructively they work on themselves and allow their nature, personality, character, and morality, and so forth, to become reality according to their innermost creational nature by means of the might of the thoughts. And enthusiasm is also necessary for daily life, because all that which occurs is only thereby able to be coped with in real affirmative form. Quite especially for one's daily work, or that which one is otherwise obliged to execute, enthusiasm is of particular significance and of profound value, because if there is none, then a miserable mood is unavoidably part of the order of the day.
Mm-hmm.
The work is only reluctantly executed and with the greatest difficulty, and thereby listlessly. This is a fact which applies to an extraordinary number of human beings, who also thereby make every day and their entire lives a tribulation. Therefore, if, with one's daily work, an attitude is to prevail through which the work is executed with joy, then corresponding enthusiasm must be created for it, which relieves all the self-torment and the aversion, as well as the disapproval, rejection, revulsion, and so forth. Therefore, all work must be tackled, carried out, and completed with joy and enthusiasm. If indifference and destructiveness are not to arise in the consciousness and the thoughts, work is a legitimate necessity without which no evolution can occur and no life can be maintained. I must say that through my work life, that was definitely a major hurdle to overcome. Trying to keep a positive attitude in an extremely negative work environment is a very difficult task.
True.
Every single creature must execute its work, even if it is just the search for nourishment or nest building for the offspring. How much more, then, the human being must take on the responsibility of their work if they want to scrape up a living and fulfill all their many wishes for prosperity and abundance in every regard. And how much better it indeed is to carry out arising work with joy and enthusiasm, instead of with a miserable mood and all possible efforts to rebel, which ultimately also cost much energy. Besides, working joyfully and enthusiastically also means to be conscious of one's obligation and to fill one's responsibility, as well as to be evolutively active in an absolutely conscious form. Schiller once wrote, "Work is the pride of the citizen, and blessings are the prize for effort." And how right he was with that. Because work should, in fact, be seen not just as a breadwinning and as necessary for prosperity and as a burden and a load, because work is really also a credit to the human being, which raises and distinguishes them high above those who are work shy and move as parasites in the ranks of the righteous, who are harmed and exploited by them. For the human being, possessing enthusiasm means that through it, they can also spur on many fellow human beings to do as they do, and to therefore likewise build up enthusiasm in themselves. In turn, others all around them are thereby pleased and stimulated to likewise turn to enthusiasm and build it up in themselves, whereby an evolutive effect thereby arises, and the effectiveness of the enthusiasm can no longer be called into question. In order to create enthusiasm in themselves, the human being does not have to be a great thinker and speaker, because simple thoughts are completely sufficient. However, they must be tended and nurtured in honesty and with the will for that which is progressive. Therefore, neither special knowledge nor special wisdom is required in order to create an evolutive, healthy enthusiasm. And really, whatever may appear in terms of enthusiasm and successes does not have to lead back to a special knowledge and to special wisdom. Rather, it has to lead back solely to the training and use of healthy, correct, and neutral, positive, equalized thoughts, by means of which the ideals and imaginations, as well as strivings and wishes, all created out of ideas, are mightfully realized. However, that which is also necessary in order to be able to create a positive form is absolute uprightness of the ideals, imaginations, and strivings, and so forth. Because only this uprightness guarantees their correct, healthy, and positive coming into being, as well as a certainty that everything is actually also used in a neutral, positive, equalized, kind, and wise. All righteous, evolutive enthusiasm gives the life an unexpected power and enables the human being to lead an existence which is successful in all areas. And the human being who lives with this enthusiasm feels raised into evolutive heights every moment by the power of their joy, love, freedom, and harmony, because the enthusiasm is really able to create this power and thereby do things which extend far beyond all that which is monotonous and mundane. The immense power of enthusiasm also creates the immense might of the thoughts through which all conceived ideals and things relating to imaginations and strivings and to wishes are fulfilled. Therefore, may the human being create in themselves enthusiasm which is evolutive in a creational, law-based form, in order to go through the world and the life with it and to live by it. It is recommended to every human being that they nurture their daily, cheery enthusiasm, and that in it, in every moment, they practice finding life beautiful and worth living. That is recommended, together with nurturing all other neutral, positive, equalized thoughts and impulsations, as well as imaginations, wishes, ideals, and efforts of a righteous kind and wise, which are to be brought to fruition by the might of the thoughts. And every human being shall be thankful every day for the prosperity which comes to them or which is achieved by them, and for all abundance. And therefore, may the human being possess so much knowledge and therefore may the human being possess so much knowledge and be so wise, which does not have to be in great philosophical forms, that they create the habit and quality of having happy, glad, loving, and progressive thoughts, which are nurtured with enthusiasm. In this form, the human being shall do whatever they can do in order to make themselves, as well as others, happy. This is the formula for true joy and enthusiasm, and therefore a formula which always pays off in some neutral, positive, equalized form or other. It is an undisputed fact among the knowledgeable and the wise that the might of the thoughts forms human beings into whatever their thoughts grasp, consider, and devise, whereby, however, everything must always and without exception be achieved with hard work, as well as with much privation and many errors, because it is just not enough to simply think that the desired state or the desired situation is already present and is the reality. In this sense, the old saying completely applies when it states, first the work, then the enjoyment. And so it actually is with all things of life, because if everything is to be righteous, then there must always first be something achieved and created before it can be used. This, therefore, applies to the positive thoughts in the entire positive thought pattern, from which all those values of life, which are actually and truthfully evolutive in the sense of creational law, can first be developed in righteous form. And all of that is always connected with an evolutive enthusiasm, which does not tolerate any negativism, because from such only negative results come forth. But unfortunately, many human beings live exactly in this destructive negativism, and are not able to free themselves from it, because everything is so ingrained in them that it has become their own, and therefore a component of themselves. In this regard, many have thus made themselves the real experts of negativism, and therefore in their thoughts they exercise a constant denial, which is then also actually realized by the might of the thoughts. However, if in contrast to that, the human being constantly consciously practices an evolutive enthusiasm by means of which the neutral, positive, equalized thoughts are fortified in their might, then the enthusiasm is able to work wonders when the ideals, imaginations, efforts, and wishes, which are nurtured by the thoughts, are transformed into action by means of the might of the thoughts. Once enthusiasm, joy, and neutral, positive, equalized thinking are already exercised and effectively used in even the smallest and simplest things, then unexpected possibilities open themselves up to the human being. However, with all of it, one must not forget the patience which is necessary and indispensable for everything, because everything takes time, and nothing can be brought to fruition overnight when it deals with things and matters and so forth, which must be created through the pure might of the thoughts. Therefore, in any case, patience must be brought into the course of the thoughts, and must naturally also first be achieved, as must the optimism, which is just as necessary with the entire thing. However, neither patience nor optimism can be built up and created by the human being in one single day, because truthfully, this often takes many months or even years and decades. And many human beings never, ever learn it if they are so negative and negating that their life and their personality are one single cesspit. The practical experience shows that the change over to the enthusiasm from indifference and neglect of obligation in regard to the life is in no form easy, nor can it happen quickly. Truthfully, it requires a long time, much patience and much perseverance. Therefore, if the human being wants to build up enthusiasm, they must absolutely know what perseverance means. Namely, not only persistence, rather, to a great extent, of bearing up and withstanding. And indeed, especially in regard to the setbacks, affliction, and effort, as well as in regard to making errors. But if the perseverance is there in all its forms, then the end product will be worth the effort in every case, regardless of how many weeks, months, and years everything takes, and also regardless of how laborious everything is. With that, there are always many critical moments which must be overcome and conquered. If a danger emerges, then hope must not be lost, while a giving up must absolutely not be considered. In the end of what is possible appears to have been, if the end of what is possible appears to have been reached, and deceptive thoughts and feelings arise, then everything in one's power must be done in order to allow high respect, patience, optimism, and perseverance to take the upper hand. The enduring, the withstanding, the persisting in, and the being able to bear all penetrating and threatening negativity is called for. Because only thereby can everything be overcome in a progressive, healthy, correct, and positive form. Page 350. Number 1. Enthusiasm is a value of the consciousness and thereby of one's inner nature. If this inner nature is formed in accord with one's innermost nature. Therefore, in order to feel enthusiasm, the human being must be in harmony with their consciousness. Number 2, evolutive enthusiasm is so strong and mighty that none of life's hard knocks can do harm to the human being who is inspired with enthusiasm. Number 3, if a human being feels no enthusiasm in themselves, then that is as if they have not yet climbed out of a dark abyss into which they fell as a result of their unknowledge and inattentiveness, and in which they had to starve and go thirsty. Number 4, once conscious, evolutive enthusiasm is achieved, then the practical experience of it creates actual vitality. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of the presentation. Like I said, it's a bit short. I apologize.
David, I heard the words perseverance earlier. What makes that different to enthusiasm?
Well, enthusiasm is...
Which is intense.
yeah. Perseverance means... let's see. How can we put this? Say you're walking in a very strong storm. You're trying to get home and you're walking and the wind is blowing against you really hard. You persevere. That amounts to strength and direction. You know where you want to go and you persevere. You keep pressing forward. But enthusiasm would be like if you had in your mind at the same time that was going on, you had in your mind that you felt good about doing it, and you knew that the final destination that you were going to be home and you would be warm and you would. So it's a perseverance seems to have to do more with mental strength or strength of the psyche.
Like
and
endurance, enduring.
endurance and enduring, yeah, perseverance. Then enthusiasm is more like an uplifting feeling about something.
Like inspirational, motivational, like that.
Yeah, that's it.
I think Cynthia is raising hand.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say if you were to look at the dictionary, means because the first thing that came to my mind was the striving, being able to go through that. Now, in the dictionary, perseverance means a steady persistence in a course of action, a purpose, state, etc., especially in spite of difficulties, uh, obstacles, or discouragement. So that is like having to strive and to thrive, in spite of difficulties. Whereas so when you're talking about what was the subject again here?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm is
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
it's more like joy,
Yeah.
Freude. That type of something that spurs you to move forward. That eagerness and yeah, joy to look forward to. That's an energy that is cultivated by the way you think. So that's why it's important to involve your consciousness so that you can face the reality from day to day and be able to achieve something in spite of obstacles. That's my take on that.
Because I'm thinking it's
Mm.
the same striving, it's the same purpose, it's the same uh, feeling that you will achieve once you succeed on whatever, if it is perseverance or enthusiasm. That's why I said to myself, which one is more intense in the
Well,
Yeah.
situations?
I think they're both important. You need them. They're like go hand in hand in order to reach that seal or goals. Um, yeah, well, especially with whatever challenges life presents to you. Uh, and then so these are the tools in which to achieve, and so it doesn't just become a wish or a dream. You could actually turn it into manifest it into reality. It's like takes work to have that happen. It won't just do it by itself, basically. So that's
Yeah, I
that's the
think, yeah, for me, perseverance is the first step. And then when you build strong, uplifting feelings, striving, all that, you will end up into enthusiasm, which for me is wisdom.
Friends, nag-raise ng hand sila.
No, yeah. I just want to know. I think we should go back um first on the term enthusiasm. We need to check the Figo dictionary of what's that mean, because sometimes if you're going to define the word enthusiasm, Billy defines it really really well. But yeah, but if you're going to think it as a word that we used to learn, we used to know, right? It's gonna be different, because enthusiasm is like it, joy, right? Like excitement, something like that. But I think what David presented here, it's deeper than just joy. You know, there's more to it. Because I know that Billy really defines enthusiasm, because it looks like it's very neutral, and it's saying neutral positive. Because sometimes enthusiasm, if we overjoy, or like over positives sometimes leads to negative, very negative. So but enthusiasm something on this definition is like different. You know what I mean? So I don't know, David, you can define what is enthusiasm in maybe in the Figo dictionary or something, or in the German one, so we
D-
better understand.
Do you have it on hand, Rance? The
On the
Figudic?
I cannot research because
Oh,
I'm using
okay.
my mobile, but maybe
Ah,
Figo dictionary in German. I think it's Schwarzbarmen.
wait,
Yeah,
wait. Let me look. Check this.
yeah, Schwarmen. Yeah, there's some in because in the world enthus, right? That is a it's a Greek word, means to have a possession of God, enjoyment or something like that. So it's like a really really happy, enjoy what they're doing, and it's like, yeah, that's why enthus means like enthusiasm. Yeah, but
And
of course,
enthusiasm to me means it has a personal meaning to me where enthusiasm feels like a shock absorber
yeah,
in life's daily activities. Enthusiasm doesn't mean that you run around, like the fool on the edge of the cliff playing his flute and not paying attention to anything, just in a state of ecstasy all the time. But enthusiasm is sort of like whatever comes your way. What I mean in terms of a shock absorber is that enthusiasm has a tendency to soften the hard edges of daily activities and things and negativity that comes your way. You tend to, with an enthusiastic attitude, you tend to not you're not in a state of denial. It's just like, I don't know how to, the only word I could use is a shock absorber,
yeah,
because it's it you maintain your balance in a positive, neutral, equalized way with enthusiasm. And enthusiasm, like I said, it doesn't mean you're just overjoyed all the time and you look at you don't see the negative aspects. You don't, all you see is positive and flowers and butterflies and all that kind of crap. It's to me, it's like it's something that really helps me to withstand the the onslaught of daily life and what comes along. I mean, if you didn't have enthusiasm, it would be really, and you see and it talks about this in the presentation. If you don't have enthusiasm, it's very easy to fall into a negative frame of mind, and your psyche becomes
Yeah.
consumed with negativity. And especially nowadays, everywhere you look, it's just war and famine and
mm,
hardship and
Mhm.
you
Mm.
know and if you didn't have enthusiasm and positive, neutral, equalized thinking, that stuff, you would just give up. And you see people all the time with this nihilistic attitude of, what difference does it make? The world's going to end. We're all going to get blown up and everything, blah blah blah, right? Personally, I don't subscribe to that.
What
I
if
see.
David, you're missing one component of what you're saying? Let's say you're missing positivity. You mean to say everything will not gonna be worked out for you being an enthusiastic if you're being pessimistic. So the component of being positivity and patience is just like kind missing on that certain goal that you're thinking about. That means your enthusiastic work or thinking will not gonna be work out. So it means the other are more better than being as enthusiastic then. Is that what you're like? That's what I sense, okay? Like you said, being positive or whatever, it will not gonna be work out.
Yeah, I
So
mean, uh, there, we don't know. I mean, sure, we've got prophecies and we've got predictions, and we all are we all have enough sense to see trends and things like that going on in the world. But I think this enthusiasm and neutral positive equalized thinking is more for immediate, in the immediate sense, is more for our own personal lives. And it, whether it has any influence on our environment is sort of like secondary. But the most important thing is for us, as in an evolutive manner, to maintain this neutral, positive, equalized enthusiasm to enable us to keep our footing amidst all of this crazy stuff that's going on. And if it has a tendency to affect the people around us, all the best, you know, all for the best. But if it doesn't, that shouldn't be our final goal. That shouldn't be our focus point. Our focus point should be on our own psyche and our own lives and our goals and inspirations, etc. Lawrence, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to. Can you put all the presentation again? I can't see it anymore, but I don't know. It's just gone. But anyway, yeah,
Well,
I really like.
I can put it up if you want.
Yeah, I really like your analogy about the shock absorber, because enthusiasm it leads. It's like a. It's like a. Yeah, yeah, like it's creating harmony to your consciousness because you are enthusiastic. You're enthused to the things that you really like to do, right? For example, uh like the farmers or gardening or something like that. If you really enjoy what you're doing, regardless of the result, you still keep doing what you're doing because it brings harmony to you. So something like if you had that kind of enthusiasm, right? Uh Regardless, because you know the result that what what you're doing, that it's bring you peace, bring you comfort, harmony, maybe we can say love,
Freedom.
or freedom, etc. Just bring you all that uh knowledge or wisdom that really help you to be a better person. Like it's very neutral. It's quite, yeah. It's like regardless of anything. Like Billy. Billy's best example probably. He is very enthusiastic, and that's why he achieved whatever task that he do, or whatever he think, or whatever he wants to achieve. He's not trying to please everybody or everyone, right? So it's just doing what he's doing. Even people wants to kill him, betrayed him, left him, even his children, his wife, some things like that. He's keep he keep car- going. Yeah, he carry on his task because he had that kind of enthusiasm. It's something like that. So whatever uh the situation thrown at him is still carry on because he is balanced, right? He found harmony.
And also perseverance.
per- yeah, and perseverance. Yeah,
Perseverance, big time.
big time. That's a perseverance. That brings
Considering,
everything. If without that enthusiasm, you will not bring those perseverance, correct? Because you're not enthused. Like sometimes I experience this. Like everything that, like for example, things that impossible to do. but because I love what I'm doing, I love it, I enjoy it, I achieve it. Even a lot of struggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of enthusiasm that need to be put into your might of the thoughts, to our consciousness, so we achieve what we want to achieve, right? So we have a uh clear understanding of what we want to achieve, or what we want to do, or what, yeah, our goal. So that's where enthusiasm come from. Yeah. It's like, maybe it's different from passionate, but passion is the term passion, is a different too. So enthusiasm is a neutral word, because passion is negative word for me. Yeah.
I
Anyway.
think June had his hand up.
Yeah. Go ahead, June, please, Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
Yeah,
Kuya
June, go
Ronaldo.
ahead.
I think he's muted or what?
Richie also had his hand up, I noticed.
Yeah, if Kuya Ray is still busy, I'll try to share mine. Well, I have these thoughts in my mind, like about enthusiastic or enthusiasm. It's like you cannot be happy every day. It's like saying uh, I'm very enthusiastic every day. I think enthusiasm or being happy has to be worked out. It has to be maintained. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're happy doing planting, if you're happy doing painting, if you're happy enthusiastic in doing into something, into into music, or doing composing something about some music, it is not always 100% that the outcome will be good. I mean is what I mean is that to achieve something into enthusiastic, you have to work it out. Like there must be some form of a resistance in order to achieve that state of bliss or enthusiastic or enthusiasm. So for me, you might be enthusiastic today, but tomorrow the life, the life is like a swing up and down, left and right. You might encounter resistance because life is about some form of resistance. That's the law of evolution. There's always a resistance in order to push us forward. So in order for this enthusiasm or happiness or joy or state of joy to be maintained, it has to be subjected to ups and downs of life. So whatever means or or form of wisdom you are, or knowledge that you are using to maintain that state of enthusiasm, maybe tomorrow it will be a different tune. So for me, this comes the job of perseverance. Whenever you're doing something today that is enthusiastic, with all the accumulated experience, wisdom that you're pouring into that to that section, you're achieving it. You're enjoying the enthusiasm. But tomorrow it will be another different scenario. So there might be a setback, but learning to the might of the thoughts, we should not back down. So here comes the perseverance. The perseverance will help us endure, push through that challenges. And when we endure and we reach the certain zeal, then we will realize, now I have attained some form of endurance, resistance, and then another form of knowledge and experience. Then I can add up to the previous experience that I have done it before, and I will make it an additional what you call this one. It's like an additional experience to the enthusiasm that I have gained before. So it's adding up, moving forward, moving forward. So it's like you have to maintain it. It's like that. If you get my idea, enthusiasm, it's not a state that if you have it, you just leave it as it is. No, for me it's like once you have it, you have to work on it, because tomorrow is another day, tomorrow is another challenge, tomorrow is another experience again. So you have to push it forward, because life ahead of us, there's always a constant pressure, a constant change. Sometimes we cannot predict, sometimes we cannot perceive, but that's the life, that's the evolution. So it's a form of opportunity, that if something bigger things comes to us, a bigger challenge, then it's an opportunity to use all our might, our effort, our will, in order to bring the state of enthusiasm back to the work in progress. I hope you got what I mean. That's all.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
agree
Richie.
to that, Richie. I agree to that. And we should not lose hope that if we think everyone is not happy with what you are doing, but you are confident that it is the right thing to do, and then you think you are a failure, but then inside your heart, inside your mind, you are doing the best that you can. And yeah, you have to pursue the enthusiasm in yourself to prove to yourself that you can do it. You do not surrender for the things that uh, you feel you are alone, and yeah, and then it will be proven, someday it will be proven that whenever you continue on working hard, you're working hard for yourself, of course, until such time that they can people can see your perseverance. People can see your that you are not affected by being criticized. And you have to go and just move on every day, moving on, and do the best you can the next day. Okay, that's all.
Okay, Kuya
Just
JM,
real
it's
quick,
your
real
turn.
quickly, there's a section here that I'm looking right at as everyone was talking, and it really fits right in. Therefore, if the human being wants to build up enthusiasm, then they must absolutely know what perseverance means. Namely, not only persistence, rather, to a great extent, a bearing up and withstanding, and indeed, especially in regard to setbacks, affliction, and effort, as well as in regard to making errors. But if the perseverance is there in all its forms, then the end product will be worth the effort in every case, regardless of how many weeks, months, and years everything takes, and also regardless of how laborious everything is.
Yeah, very good. They're
June,
all connected.
you've had your hand
Yeah,
up for quite a while.
yeah,
Sorry about
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Not, it's all right. All that has transpired has contributed to firm up my idea. Let me bring to the table the idea of the story behind Wantamad. I thought of Wantamad as a very good example of one that could be very persistent and enthusiastic at the same time. But the problem is, you could stay under the guava tree for ages, waiting for the guava to fall into your mouth. But it might not happen for that, because things will happen in between, and even the bird can take the guava fruit from the tree itself and depriving you of the chance to bring it to your mouth. But he's there, persistent. If you have to wait for so long a time under the tree, he does. But one thing that is not said in that story is that what can one do other than persistently being under the tree and get what he wants to get, which is the guava fruit. If he will only persist in being under the tree, things won't happen in his favor. For all you know, it might really drop from the branch into his mouth, but it's too late because it might be overripe already. Nothing to enjoy. So, what do I mean by saying this? If he is really enthusiastic to get the flavor, the best flavor from the guava fruit, he should be acting than persisting to lay under the guava tree. And what are the things that he can do? He can use a long stick, pick it up. He can climb the tree, get it by his hands, or whatever is humanly possible. The book is there. You can read about everything that you want to read. You can get all the dictionary meaning of all the words that you can see there, which you cannot easily understand. But the next question is, what good will it do you if you do not live by what the book is telling you? That is where enthusiasm revolves or evolves. It's not persistence. It's not having all the books. It is not reading all the books. It's not getting all the words understood to your satisfaction. It is how you will be able to test it by yourself that the words or the wisdom coming out of the words from the book will work for you because simply you tried it. You failed in several instances, but the fact that you are trying will lead you to a situation later on that you have won at the end out of enthusiasm to get what you should be getting at that point. You can always sleep with a book beside you, sleep on it if need be, but it won't do the trick. You have to live by it. And that is actually the difference between persistence and enthusiasm. Persistence is more like, okay, I need to do this. This is how it's done. Uh, but it doesn't matter whether it comes or not, which is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm propels you to do more than uh, waiting for things to happen. We have to make things happen. Otherwise, we will be like the prayerful individuals in all respect of religion, to the point that you can enter a cave and away from all the nitty gritties of human endeavors, but still you cannot find it because you are failing to satisfy your enthusiasm. What you are satisfying is your persistence. I don't know if I'm sounding like a pastor or a whatever, but don't get me wrong. My meaning is that Juan Tamad will remain to be like him forever and ever because he is not doing the work. He is simply persisting to be one that is expecting things to happen by itself, by way of whoever imaginary entities are available around him. But he still fails to understand and accept and work it out that the nearest that could bring this to fruition is his own consciousness. He has to lift his hand. He has to climb the tree. He has to pick the fruit. He has to bring it to his mouth. He has to grind it. He has to digest it. Taste it first by his tongue. Without all those, he will remain a one tamad story. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuya June. I think that's a good sample of what I'm asking to David earlier, like saying if missing one component of the things like being pessimistic, things will happen also at the same thing. Your enthusiasm or your perseverance will make happen, but it's not kind of fruitful, something like that. One Tamad is a good sample. Thank you, David. Back to you, David, being host. I think everybody's here.
I had a thought. I don't know if any of you've probably seen this before, but in a lot of indigenous cultures, when they have a lot of hard work to do, they often all work together. It isn't just like one person out beating themselves up. They all get together as a community and they go out in the fields and they work. And this is really common in Africa, where you'll have a whole village of people out working in the fields, and they're singing while they're working. And the singing, I've noticed that, like if I'm doing some work, and Billy has talked about this before, about the value of singing while you're doing things. If I'm doing something that's really strenuous, or that I'm really not really wanting to do, I try singing some song. But if it doesn't even have to have words, it can just be humming along, and do. And I've noticed that it's sort of, it's almost like it makes endorphins kick in or something. It's like all of a sudden the work doesn't seem so hard. It doesn't seem so laborious. It doesn't seem like such a drudgery. All of a sudden my mind is sort of lifted away from all of that, and I just get about my work, and it really makes a difference. I can see why they do that. It's sort of like it keeps everybody in an uplifted spirit, regardless of how hard the work is. So
Yeah.
I guess that's an enthusiasm there. Yeah.
What you're saying is right, David. Remember the film Les Miserables, or the whatever you want to call it, where the slaves are asked to drag certain heavy things, and while they're doing this together with all others, they sing. They are in unison. They they join the effort, because if only you will do it alone, which is not what Figo is suggesting, that the study will have to be done with some like-minded individuals around you, however small the number is. Because on our own, we will be at the mercy of what we are. A small triggering mechanism could come from a nobody, and if you realize that you have to adapt to that idea, then you are in the process of learning. And if you could really live by it in the long run. Because again, if you only heard it and set it aside, it won't give you anything. You have to live by what you have understood and accepted. Otherwise, you will remain where you were, irrespective of how persistent you are, irrespective of how wanting you are to get the best portion of the pie. You won't be able to do it that easy. You may, but it may not be that easy. Another thing to remember is that neutral positive thinking is suggested. But I take it that neutral positive stance only works up to a certain degree because there will come a time that you do not have to look at it neutral positive equalized. You have to make a judgment. You have to make a choice. And that choice can either be negative or positive, depending on on your effort to progress. Remember, there are people who can cast a spell on someone else using his might of thought. Simply by thinking about it, he makes things difficult for somebody. As a matter of fact, even the individual itself, himself or herself, can do this against himself. I hope this will be discussed in the book Psych Wrench later on when we are on it. Because my idea here is the revolution happens within. It's not happening in the field. It's not happening in the streets of Manila. It's not happening in the cities like the one in Venezuela or in Iran or wherever. The revolution is within. If we will be able to control our own consciousness, then we've done what we have to do. Others will see it, they may not take it, they will leave it aside. It's their concern. But in your case, it's in anybody's case for that matter, it's all dependent on the enthusiasm that he exudes. And there will come a point that neutral positive stance will no longer be the primary act, because by which time you have made a decision and found out that you have learned from it, then that particular issue is settled already. Then you are now ready to look at other issues negatively or positively and suffer from it if you will not use the suggestion that one should be neutral, positive, equalized. The ones casting spells are not practicing neutral, positive equalizedness. He is more toward the negative side for others or for himself. And for me, realizing this is a very big source of pride and joy because I could not, I will not be able to find it however long I will stay in a church listening to whoever is in the pulpit telling me jokes and telling me things and telling me everything that I don't really need. Because in the first place, they themselves do not understand where we should be coming from, not like Billy Materials. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Yeah, I think enthusiasm must. I mean, it's for me. It's a one of the good values that human beings must should attain. Because it's really important. For example, like enthusiasm, you can begin. You can light. You can kick the ball rolling. It's just something like that. But people that really see your enthusiasm will follow. Just like what David said and Kuya Jun mentioned about singing and then the change within, because you cannot change. The world is so big, the universe is so big, you cannot change the world, but you can change yourself. That's what they always say. So if you had that kind of enthusiasm, a real value that really that's within or that possess on your personality, I know people will follow through whatever you do. Whatever things change will happen. Um, revolution will happen. A revolution in a way that people will evolve consciously, like what we're doing right now. We are enthusiastic to stay late. Stay late because we know it's important. It's not only important to you, but for the swinging waves that we send through, the thoughts that we send through to the universe, to the earth, consciousness, etc. People will pick it up. Will pick this up eventually. Not only the people around us, but even our next personality will pick it up. So those kind of uh, enthusiasm, it's a greater value for me that each and everyone must or should possess or should achieve or attain. Yeah, that's a good thing. I think that's it for me.
I
And
think a true revolution is going to happen not in a violent manner, although something may happen like that, but it won't
well,
have
it will
anything to
have
do
yeah,
with
true.
us. The true revolution is going to happen when people just completely withdraw their mental support for what's going on. And you see it happening quite a lot. It appears that people are starting to wake up to the fact that all of this is an illusion, and all of
E-
this stuff, the politics and religion and
The
all of this stuff
religion, money,
is, yeah,
materialism,
everything.
nonsense.
There
Yeah,
people are start you just get this feeling. There's this, at least I do. I get this a sort of a feeling. It's like it's like you don't see it happening, but you can sense it, and there's this seems to be this mass awakening that's going on, and it's not happening quickly, but people what's happening with the Aquarian age coming into fruition and it coming on strong is that lies and deceit and illusions don't hold the strength that they used to hold in the old days, where it was
true. Yeah, it's just people if they realize,
something that
that
is so completely off the wall that they're lying, and hardly anybody is falling for it anymore. They're all just, you see, constantly it's just becoming so hard for them to hide under a rock anymore and pull the
absolutely
wool over people's eyes, so to speak, because people are they're starting to become aware. And I think it's because of the age of information, the internet, and everything out there. Sure, there's a lot of baloney out there, but there's a lot of facts out there too. And if
correct.
anybody has a bit of balanced viewpoint looking at it and doesn't get swayed by one side or the other of politics, if they stay off of that and have a sort of a neutral view of it, it becomes really easy to see when you're being bamboozled. It really is. And politicians are starting to sound more like the old stereotype of the used car salesman in the bold checkered suit and the big tie. Hey, this baby's gonna really get you where you want to go. The guy's lying. They've got sawdust in the crankcase to keep it from making noise, and you know, it's just so obvious anymore. And I think that people are just gonna start. Yeah, I mean, I've even seen it where they're saying that people are starting to turn away from organized religion. That young people, especially the Gen Xers and stuff like that, are starting to just vote with their feet and their minds, and they're just walking away. It doesn't, network news, things of that nature, they're
Mm,
losing their market because the young people are just not falling for it anymore. And it's a really encouraging thing to see because they're developing a whole different viewpoint
yeah,
that, you know,
absolutely. I saw that shift of shift of consciousness already, because even the young people now, like maybe baby boomers, or they like career, they want to to work their ass off, just to have something. But right now, young generation doesn't care about money or materialism and stuff like that. They just want to do more experience, like something like that. So, and also politics is we're in a shift already because with the expose of those corrupt individuals, even those people that we called spiritual guru, they're in the Epstein file, which is crazy. That really collapse all the belief of a lot of people, if they're exposed with kind of evil deeds, etc. So I think it will collapse everything, and then people will realize one day that these things, we don't need them. We don't need this. We don't need more, because that mentality of with more, is something. It's like it's nonsense. There are more. I think eventually people will realize because of what's going on. Uh the value of being true human being, the value of what what life is, or what more important than anything else, the material things. But they're gonna go for what really brings them true happiness, true freedom, true peace, uh true joy, etc., etc., something like that. Yeah.
I started to see through a lot of that stuff very early on. Like I've traipsed all over India chasing gurus and godmen and all of, all these miracle workers and stuff like that. And it's amazing that, in the end, they're just human beings.
They're all human beings.
They're
Yeah.
just human beings. And like, for instance, early on, one of the first gurus that I started following around was Swami Satchidananda. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, but he came to America back in the early 70s and the late 60s. He was at Woodstock and all that stuff. And, we're all following him around. We even met him at the airport and brought him to Detroit and we had an ashram in Detroit and all of this kind of stuff. Well, it turns out he wound up having an affair with some American woman, and it just blew everybody out. They were all like, he was this celibate, holy man with, untouchable and so pure and everything. And he has this affair with an American woman. So everybody bailed. And after that, he just lost his status. There were still a lot of people who followed him and who, and he went
Of
down.
course.
He went down to Virginia and he built this community called Yogaville and all that. But you could tell he was a beaten man. You could tell he was a broken man. And the same thing with Satya Sai Baba. I traveled to India so many times and went to his ashram in India. It's huge, freaking ashram, big. All of these legends and everything about him. Turns out he's a pedo.
Yeah, same as Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, it turns out he's a pedo. I was gonna say Deepak Chopra too, but Deepak Chopra didn't have he had star quality, but he didn't have the massive following that people like Satya Sai Baba did.
Maybe Sadhguru too. We'll never know. I really don't. I don't really trust those gurus.
The same goes for Osho. And these
Osho,
guys.
yeah, Bhagwan.
Yeah, these guys. Look at this crap, And
Yeah.
they all eventually. The only guy I think of who didn't fall into a hole was Ram Dass. Ram Dass was a pretty straight up guy the whole time until he died. He was a pretty straight up guy. There's never any scandal around him, and he was gay, but it never got drug into his involvement as a teacher. You never saw any scandal around him. He was always a straight up guy, But for the most part, most of those big time gurus all went the same way. They sank like Titanics.
Yeah, that's why the timing of Billy is really amazing because he didn't do the path of guru thing, or
Exactly.
priesthood, etc. Which is he showed to us that he's just a normal person. To be honest,
Mm.
it's, despite of his intelligence, his achievements, his
Mhm.
experience, no one can really match him. But
And in spite of people trying to
of course, yeah,
manufacture stuff about him and intrigues and all this kind of stuff. In spite of that, he still kept his balance and he still maintained his integrity and his honesty, and nobody's been able to touch him. And I don't like to use the term Teflon, because Teflon means that you're impervious in a certain way where you might be a kind of an unsavory person and the criticism just bounces off you. But his integrity, I think, is what is his armor. His honesty
yeah,
and his integrity and his forthrightness is his armor against these people who manufacture all of these intrigues and try to say, oh, he was a womanizer and this and that, one thing and another. I
yeah,
think that's
But then again, guys, let's face it. Had you not asked yourself those questions earlier, you will not be here.
yeah, yeah.
If you haven't taken a step further than where you were before, you won't arrive in anywhere else. You will remain stagnant. And many people on earth, almost 10 billion, and in spite of the number, I don't even, I'm not even sure if we have gone beyond 2,000 in membership as far as Figo is concerned. Of course, there are adherents that are not being counted. There are the best the best gauge is the statistics that dayfly.com is offering every time in its lower pages, that there are statistics of how many hits are coming from any country in the world. And one consolation is the Philippines is not that far from the classification of many. But then again, even Billy himself had to go through taking his own steps across deserts, across mountains, across different types of teaching, across every challenges, be it love affairs included. But then again, we needed it. We did not enjoy the same preparation that Billy did ahead at his very early age of 5 or 6 years old, when Scott placed an apparatus over his head to download everything that he needed to have based on his previous uh, what do you call that learnings by other in other lives that the Condemnian has had, or for that matter, we may have been, and yet we just don't get it the way Billy and Spot did it and recorded. For all intents and purposes, we were given those wires attached to our our person, one way or the other, to download what we should call wisdom, the term that will tell you the distinction between right and wrong, or good and bad, or evil and whatever. Uh, because for as long as you do not realize this, one will remain wherever he is. If he does not ask questions, if he does not look into what answers he's gotten in the meantime, if he did not understand all those, if he did not put it into practice, everything will fall to naught. And that's why the age of Aquarius is offering a lot of promise that many will break away from the old ways of being so dependent, although persistent, enthusiastic for that matter, but not to the point that they'll be able to take advantage of what's going on around. Thank you guys for being with me tonight. I'm happy. I feel I gathered more than I should have gathered, which I will not be able to do without you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe give chance to others who wants to participate and share something. We have Delbert here, Ate Helen, Cynthia, Francis,
Baby.
and
We got
Rebecca,
we got 10
Yeah.
and
people in here.
Xiaomi, and Richie's here. I think Wei it's Xiaomi, but yeah, we
How
just
about baby?
yeah, maybe Rebecca, Nanay Rebecca, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes po. Thank you po. Concerning the distinction between the word enthusiasm and perseverance, the most simple way on or how I understood it, like for example, I aim to be a better person that is in my thoughts. So to achieve it, I will persevere, continue whatever hardship I encounter. I will never give up because I wanted to achieve my goal. But when I exerted more effort, I devoted lots of time. I put knowledge, finding ways and means in order to achieve my goal. I'm not only persevering, but I'm also enthusiastic. So I'm using both perseverance and enthusiasm just to achieve my aim to be not only to be a better human being or person, but to be the very best of what I am. That's how I understood the word enthusiasm and perseverance. Thank you for giving me time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. You know, without enthusiasm, I don't think any of us would be here. I
I
think our
agree. I
enthusiasm,
agree.
I think our enthusiasm is showing every time we gather here for these meetings and we share with each other. We're enthusiastic about not only our own evolution, but the evolution of our fellows. And I think we all of us have been challenged. Billy, we look at his life and say, "Oh my God, how what a difficult, challenging life he had." But it's all relative. I think each one of us can look back at our lives up till now and see where are the challenges, the setbacks, the heartbreaks, the successes, and everything else has led us to this point where we are all sharing tonight and where we are all studying the teachings and things of that nature. Our lives led us here, regardless of how difficult it was, and our enthusiasm and perseverance is what keeps us on the track and keeps us coming back for more, So I think just the fact that we're having this meeting is a great example of enthusiasm and perseverance. In spite of challenges that we might have during the week or tonight or whatever, we all try to get here as often as we can. And I think that's a really good example of that.
That's true. And the thing that we learn is moving on. We do not dwell ourselves in the past, whether it's favorable or unfavorable, we move on. We we always have the strength. We always have the hope that what we are doing is for ourselves, to uplift ourselves, to gain knowledge through experience, the failure, the success, be it a failure or success. It's okay. It's okay. We always accept everything that happens in our life, and I think that is enthusiasm. In
Anyone
your
else?
first, David, in your first reading, we came across that might of the thoughts is not enough. I have read it, and then on the latter part of your reading, it mentioned again the might of the thoughts. Yeah, but on the first paragraph, it is said might of the thoughts is not enough.
Hello?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. What do you mean not enough, Tita Helen?
yeah. On the first paragraph, I have read also the
Where's
topic.
that?
Yeah, here. Wait on that.
Hmm.
I cannot I cannot make it larger. I can't make it larger.
Therefore, if human beings want to achieve something positive in themselves, it is therefore not sufficient to simply think it is just as one desires. In this form, wishes always remain wishes, which never manifest because they cannot be realized by means of the might of the thoughts.
Mhm.
Because this might has just not been built up. If that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, I think that's what she's talking about. Yeah, we need hard work, to be honest, not only might of the thoughts, we need to work on it. That's why the enthusiasm is very important, because even if you're doing hard work, right, just be happy on what you're doing, because you love what you're doing. Just like the example of David, when you sing and you're doing some hard work, and you sing or you laugh, you smile. It's the hard work is easy. Will become easy, especially if people are doing it together in really in harmony. That you just enjoy what you're doing. You just talk, laugh, and singing. Yeah, not singing, just humming, having that enthusiasm. And yeah, even yeah, and that's really achieve the goals you want. So it's not only about might of the thoughts, but also the hard work. Yeah, with enthusiasm. I think that's
Being
what.
being able to find the humor in
Yeah.
situations is really helpful too. That's another way of maintaining enthusiasm. Being able to, like when I paint myself into a corner with something and I'm just at my wit's end. I'm like, all of a sudden I just laugh and I say, David, you've gotten yourself into another great one, haven't you?
The play.
Instead of just going, yeah,
It's
eh,
also one thing, right?
You know, Billy's got lots of sense of humor, and play Aaron's really cannot pick it up. But right now, they start
Yeah.
picking it up. What's the sense of humor? You know, is that a joke? Is that your sense of humor? Are you
Well,
serious?
they're a real stern bunch, aren't they? Earlier, they're not as bad now. At least they get the joke sometimes and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
correct.
early on, boy, were they a bunch of sticks, man. They they just did they did. I think that was one of the best things, that one of the greatest, and, and as well as the teachings, of course, obviously the teachings, but I think one of the greatest things that Billy ever gave them was
Sense of
learning to
humor.
have a sense of humor,
Yeah,
and not only sense of humor but emotions,
yep.
because they were almost like AI, like bots when they
They are like,
first
if you watch the Star Trek, they are like the Vulcans, Spock, and Billy Mayer,
yeah,
the Kirk,
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
right.
yeah. It's just like emotionless and stuff, but like situations
Very
where
logical.
early
Yeah,
on where Samyazi actually started crying, and
yeah.
things of that nature when Billy got all jacked up. And
I think
you know,
yeah, that's why they love visiting Earth. You know, because the technology. That's why they send a lot of people here to study, because I think on their words, they lost the humor. And in evolution of human beings, humor is part of our one of the I think seven evolution or attitude that we need to achieve. Humors, which is good to have the humor sometimes. Humor is great. If a human beings with a sense of humor, they are really evolved on that, and of course people loves them. It's easier. It's very light. It's very light. If people take a joke and make a joke, it's just light. That environment so light.
Actually,
Yeah.
actually, Renz, to the point that it no longer is a joke. It becomes part of reality. I remember the story behind Billy together with Asket in a trip with uh, a gadget that will not that will prevent people from seeing them, and knowing that
Invisible.
yeah, make yes, a cloak that will make them invisible. And the joke, or actually the human nature in Billy,
Yeah.
uh, when he kissed that lady.
oh yeah, when they time traveled
Yes.
and he was invisible. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
It's
remember that.
one of the Egyptian lady, I think, in Egypt,
Yes.
ancient Egypt.
It was some tribal girls in a tent
Yeah,
or
Yes.
something like that,
Yes.
and he went in and give
something
her
like
the
that.
Yes.
smooch.
Yes. He's got a lot of it. His sense of humor is top
What a
notch.
mischief maker. Yeah.
And also when she got accident, I think she still joke about it. And if someone assassinate him, she still joke about it. And then the player is joking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little interesting anecdote I'd like to tell you about. I've look into the life of Robert Monroe. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, but he's the guy that came up with the Gateway system, the Gateway project that the CIA used, and all of that.
Mm.
But Robert Monroe was developed in such a way that he had attained almost an interstellar out of body experience, and he ran into, at least by what he writes, he ran into various kinds of extraterrestrial life while he was out traveling around psychically. And one of the beings that he ran into uh, was his major task. This being's major task was to come to Earth and harvest humor, because humor was such a very rare thing in the universe that they would come all the way here to harvest humor in form of jokes and
Yeah.
skits and pratfalls and whatever, to take back and study to try to learn humor like it was a learnable thing, right? But this guy's his job was to come to Earth and harvest humor, harvest jokes, watch TV, watch movies, and distill the humor from that and take it back. And he had all these humor souvenirs inside of his ship, all kinds of crazy stuff like film memorabilia and all kinds of crazy things like that. But I thought that was really funny that humor would be so rare that they would almost come here like to mine it, like it was as valuable as gold is to us, right?
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. I mean, it's Earthling's still good for us, you know. Sometimes that's humor really our advantage, you know, to other advanced extraterrestrial race. You know, it's good.
Yeah, most of them, you hear most of the accounts that you read and come across, the extraterrestrials from wherever they're from seem to be rather bland and emotionless, and you know, I think that's one of the things that makes Earth humans so interesting and so rare in the universe is that we're so earthy, if to for lack of a better term, we're earthy. We have emotions and we have humor and we have things that make us more vibrant, I think, than a lot of the other beings that have visited the planet.
They
Mm.
can pull your leg without you knowing it.
Yeah, the humor just seems to run right past most extraterrestrials. Luckily, the Plejaren are starting to get a little bit more. Seems like Bermuda and those gals, a lot of those gals have started to loosen up a lot. They seem to get jokes and whatnot.
Yeah, because you know, coming here is traumatic to them. You know, it's like observing what's going on is so traumatic. You know, even
Oh,
just the makeup of a lady, it's
yeah,
like it's a traumatic to them. It's like, oh, what's that? So it's like humor is a part that Billy gave it to them because it's really important. It's important to make their visit lightly, you know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, a sense of humor too is another shock absorber.
yeah,
You know, a sense of
yeah.
humor is
Yeah.
definitely a shock absorber. I mean, that doesn't mean you laugh at suffering or anything like that. But if you think about it, the kind of life that we endure on a daily basis compared to the kind of lives that extraterrestrials endure, like the Plejaren, they're like heaven. They're like the lives are like heavenly, and we live in a virtual hell. I mean, look at what's going on our planet, and we still manage to find something to laugh about, to smile about. We still manage to keep our sense of enthusiasm and positivity in spite of that. So if you think about it, our native strength in a lot of areas is much greater than a lot of extraterrestrial uh, civilizations. Just our native strength in being able to endure the psychic, uh, onslaught that we go through every single day. That's not bragging about humans. I mean, humans got a lot of stuff wrong with them, but but just imagine how we haven't all just committed mass suicide or something, you know?
Mm,
Oh my God, I can't take it anymore.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, an example is when what happened to me last 2 weeks ago, that I met an accident. You know, it's a very serious accident, but no no positive result in all my tests. And I was called in the barangay the other day to fix the uh, the incident. The person who bumped me, it's a tricycle, and the driver is drunk, and then he bumped me on my left side, and I thrown, and I yeah, the damage is very severe, but it's almost a miracle that all the tests are negative. So when I was called, and I made jokes in front of the barangay chairman, and I said that he told me to tell the whole story how it happened. And then when I started to make the story, it was very emotional and dramatic. But then, because I have that a little sense of humor, I said that I noticed that when I drop my body on the ground, I saw that my dress was torn, my underwear was torn, and then my bra was torn. And you know what, it's a Victoria's Secret, and it cost $40. And I said, I it seems that I paid more importance to that underwear than my life. And they all laugh. And I said that my cousin said, oh, you charge $40 to the person who bumped you. And yeah, it's at the middle of my dramatic uh, revelation and stories. I was able to insist the humor, and they all laugh. That's all.
That's good. All right. Any more want to say something? Richie, Ate Cynthia, Tizor.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good, bro.
I'm
I'm
good
good too.
too. I just want to
Yeah.
remind tomorrow.
Is it
Tomorrow will
Richie's
be the
birthday today?
last day for the fluidal energy.
Yeah.
You may
Is it
attend,
4 o'clock?
David, if you have time.
Will it be
We
at
can,
4
Yeah.
yeah, we can
our
No, no,
time?
no.
finish
5
8.
o'clock.
We can
Ano ba?
start
Our
No,
at
time.
you want
8
8?
p.m. Okay.
Earlier.
You want
Yeah.
8 tomorrow?
Yeah, so we can finish early. Same time.
Okay, Cynthia,
Because
it's 4
it's our
So
o'clock.
daylight
that's
savings, so it's okay.
4 o'clock. Sige.
Okay.
I'll set my alarm. Mm-hmm.
David, if you have
Well,
time, tomorrow will be the last day of our fluidal energy book.
Wish I could attend, but tomorrow, unfortunately, I'll be out of town. I won't
Okay.
be able to. But thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. And once again, I would like to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to present some of the teachings. And I'm really happy that we got to have such a good discussion. Even though it was a brief presentation, it seemed to stimulate a lot of ideas and thoughts. So once again, thanks so much for
Yeah, very
having me.
good. Well,
Yeah,
thank you for
we thank
persistently
you.
presenting every first month. And I wishes we look forward to it, for what you're doing and sharing to us. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's February. It's a new year for us, and yeah, it's a
Well,
wonderful day.
it
We're
looks
still
like
alive.
from everything I've seen in the media, in the positive media, the negative media, the spiritual media, everything is pointing towards 2026 being a very, very eventful year. So
Yeah.
everyone try their best to keep up that positive, neutral thinking and equalized thinking, and try to maintain some positivity and some enthusiasm in your lives, because in spite of however things turn out, we're all going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We'll be fine.
Yeah. That's right. We're all gonna be okay as long as you had that right attitude, enthusiasm, joy, love. Yeah, just be with every eh, uh just be with people that really understand you, look after you, care for you, and care for
And even
others
if you
too.
can't be with others that understand you, take care of yourself.
Yeah, yeah, take care of yourself and look after
Self-care
yourself.
is not selfish.
Absolutely, yeah.
Self-care is not selfish.
Yeah, stay balanced. I wish we can see you next time. Thinking to go back to SSC, but we'll see. The thing is, will be okay. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm not going this year. I'm
Are you not going this year? Yeah.
financially strapped. I'm probably not going to be going until 28.
28. Yeah. Thinking maybe next year or this year. So, but this year's a bit tight, to be honest. Everybody's tight. Yeah. This 2026, a lot's going on. Mm. All right. Ate Cynthia, saying
Yes.
something?
Yeah. No. Just wanted to say that I'm grateful to be part of this group as always, and wish you all this, really happy and productive new year for our group. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys, you
That's
take
great to
care.
wish you a happy
Salome.
birthday.
Salome,
Thank you.
Salome, and peace.
Salome, everyone.
Salome. Yeah.
Magandang
Salome.
buhay.
Okay.
Salome.
Salome,
Okay.
good night.
Salome, everyone.
Salome.
Night,
Yeah.
Salome. Salamat po.
Salamat.